Yeah, it sounded like this. With
Yeah.
How do you have that queued up so easily?
I'm
Good
quick,
Lord.
man. I'm really quick.
You are. Yeah, that's almost frightening.
Hey there, Amanda here, and welcome to episode 103 of Great Beer Adventure. If you've been following along for any amount of time, you know that when a anniversary or something special happens, I like to get highly meta. So welcome to our second year anniversary show, where I promise for at least the next year, I won't get meta anymore, but today is highly meta. Today I have on the line, which is really weird. I've never actually had a show put together in such a way, but it's hard for me to get together with these folks in person. So I have John and Justin from Audio Editing Solutions, which sounds weird, but we'll get to why in a minute. Hi guys, how are you?
I'm doing good.
Yeah, awesome.
I have never been interviewed about editing a podcast for a client before, so this is going to be fun too.
Yeah, and that's exactly why we're here today. So on this meta show, we kind of talked about me a couple episodes ago for episode 100, and now we're going to talk about the show. And I thought, who better to talk about a beer podcasting show than the beer podcasting editors that I know, love, and trust. So thank you, gentlemen, for coming on the show to get really meta with me. I don't know how else to say it.
I love editing myself when I talk on other people's podcasts. I've just edited it out.
I just talked over Justin now, so he's got to edit this out. So.
Thanks, John.
So, John, you started editing my show, what was it? At least half a year ago, right?
Yeah, it was about a half a year ago. Well, no, you know when it was? It was in August of, it's almost a year because it was at MapCon that we met.
Oh, yeah. That's
when it
right at
started.
the beginning of September. Yeah. So almost a year now you've been listening to me ramble into a microphone about beer.
Yes.
At some point, you actually handed over the reins to Justin. But I think it was when we first started out, John, you didn't drink craft beer that much.
Yeah. Matter of fact, even on a show that I do with friends of mine, they come down here and they drink beer, and I don't drink beer. And it's just, I don't know. I'm a beer sissy. I probably drink like Miller Lite, and then when you get into those big soupy dark beers that you're real bitter and everything, I'm out. But here's the thing. You guys make the beer sound so good that I want to go, and I'm not a beer drinker. When I was editing the show, I wanted to get a beer and like wings and sit down and edit the show. So you do a great job of spotlighting the breweries. My favorite story of stories was the one brewery you went to where they used strawberries, and the alcohol content was so high and the beer tasted like Capri Sun that they actually had to put a moratorium. Like they would get one mug and that was it, because they would just destroy the patrons. They would get so drunk. They said there was vomit everywhere. So,
yeah.
But
that's one of the only times that vomit was talked about on my show.
Yeah. And to me, that is like the neatest thing about, not only the beer, but how they're doing it or why they're doing it. So that, for me, as an editor, it's fun to listen to. And it's nice when you're editing if you enjoy the show that you're editing.
Exactly. And it's one of my favorite ones to do throughout the week, especially since you give me such free reign on the notes and stuff. That makes it a lot more fun to kind of think up of weird stuff to talk about while actually going through and editing it.
Yeah, when we first started talking about how I wanted the show notes done and when you were going to be taking them over, Justin, it was definitely, I was like, okay, so think about how you do show notes and don't do them like that at all. I was like, just write whatever you want. And
yeah. At first I was like, oh, she wants me to be creative? Like, what?
Which made me nervous. But he's done a fantastic job.
Yeah, I hope so.
Definitely one of my favorite things. So I record the episodes. I know what's in them. There is this whole thing about listening to your own voice. And I've gotten used to it. And everybody that meets me in person is like, oh, your voice is different. So I guess I have a podcasting voice that I didn't know that I had. But for me, I've heard the episode. I haven't heard necessarily, now that we do it in a new format, I haven't heard how it's all going to come together. So I like listening through. But my favorite part each week is reading the show notes, because I have no idea what's going to be in there. And you take them to some strange places, and I just love it.
Yeah, part of it's just because I had, like, my desk is littered with dinosaurs and stuff, and then also I loosen up a bit because most of the time I will crack open a beer while editing the show as well. So,
which only is absolutely appropriate.
I don't do that for any other podcast unless they're like a total, like, something's gone wrong and an airplane crashes into the host's house. Then one sometimes is required.
That hasn't happened, has it?
No. It sounds like it has, though. You'd be surprised. Yeah, I mean, you record your shows live, like in tap rooms, outside, all over the place, and your quality will oftentimes be better than, some stuff that we've gotten in the past, where it sounds like, I don't know, a bunch of exploding rattlesnakes are climbing on the walls.
You just gotta take a minute and picture, first off, snakes climbing on the walls, and that they're rattlesnakes, and that they're exploding. I mean, these are the types of things that I love reading, because you're like, where did that even come from?
Right, and I'm thinking to myself, who's going to clean up this mess?
Yeah, Justin does. That's his job, right?
Yeah, the funny thing with me, if I can go back to doing a show where something happened in the middle of a recording, was there's a podcaster who does a podcast about podcasting, Daniel J. Lewis, and he's very straight-laced when he does his shows. Well, in the middle of his recording, a plane goes by, and he says, oh, hold on, let me let that plane go by. And then with that, a fighter jet went by, not one, but two. And in the middle, I mean, it sounded like it went like right over the roof. And he's like, that's not an airplane, that's a fighter jet. Then they heard the second one go by, and he's like, I don't know, I think we're under attack.
That's absolutely wonderful. Which gets us to the behind the scenes piece of this. We're going to let Justin take this beautiful recording, cut it up, and throw in some behind the scenes stuff for all of you listeners to check out. We will be right back with you as soon as Justin gets done having fun with that, I guess.
Insert listener clips here. Bling, bling. Those are the noises that I make when I copy and paste stuff into your show and I'm moving things around. I act like I'm... Yeah, exactly. What sound effect is that?
I think that's...
falling down, falling down steps.
Oh, goodness. It's beautiful. I'm looking out at the lake, and there's like ducks bobbing and my kids running around outside.
Wank, wank.
That sounded like a pig, not a duck.
A pig, oh.
Yeah, that was a good try for a sound.
I always had issues in school with my animal noises.
You sound like my 3-year-old. She comes up with weird things. Justin will take this piece of it out. Maybe we should make loud noises. Ready? We're on the count 3. We're gonna clap. 1, 2, 3. All right. And he's gonna see a spike and be like, "What the heck is that?" Take that out. People in the restaurant are now staring at me. Okay, so now...
It's probably because I cacawed.
Probably.
It felt right.
And I smacked my hands together. So now we're going to record the trivia piece of this, Justin, just so you know.
Hi, Justin. This is Heidi. You know me.
Yeah.
Hello, Justin. This is the wonderfulness.
What are you drinking? And more importantly, where's your mother?
What? All right, ladies. Can you just tell me what you had for breakfast?
I did not have anything for breakfast. I had misery and work and suffering for breakfast. I was up at 6 a.m. trying to get ready to be here for breakfast. Okay. All right. Everything. My official title is head funk farmer, which is just something we made up. So beer titles are so dumb.
My favorite titles are the ones people make up.
Yeah.
Director of
Yeah.
Awesome.
Right. Yeah. There's no actual in the beer industry, you don't work just one job. Unless you're a cellarman and your title is cellarman. If you're like on the upper echelons of a brewery, having a title is stupid. Yeah.
Okay. So, what do I always say, Justin? Justin's just listening to a couple of minutes of random nothingness as I...
And that's why I'm humming to him.
We'll be back with you in just a minute, Justin. Obviously, I thought I was prepared, and then I was not prepared.
Revolution was brewing in Jim Coach's heart. It was the 1890s. Nope, the 1980s. Okay, I'm dyslexic.
All right, sweetheart, go for it. As you can see here, Justin, we just have all kinds of awesome things happening. Potty time. And I'm not going to stop this and restart it, even though I know I should. I'm not going to, because... All right, I'm going to try to get these all done for you. 95, 96, and 97. I sent everybody out of the house. Well, not the husband. He's allowed to stay because he can be quiet. But I sent the distraction fairies, which I love. Thank you for that. So... here goes. We're going to try to get these busted out so you'll have a bunch to work on and stop having to, wait for me. Because I know. But things are coming together. We're going to get this, and it's going to be awesome. Woo! A big thank you to... Why is to Nathaniel really difficult to say? All right. We're going to get it this time. Okay, so sorry about all that. Thank you. You're the best. On to 96.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. Yeah.
Oh.
We're still just getting levels, so that's great.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Here, put my beer over.
Well, we can just start talking about this. I'm going to go into my microphone for a minute. I'll be right back. I just got to talk this way and not at you.
Oh, I see. Yes, okay.
Okay.
So, thank you. Talk to you later. Peace out, Cub Scout. So there you have it. There's a little view of the life and times of a beer podcaster and what a poor beer podcaster editor has to deal with when he gets all of the raw audio. There's a couple things that you had mentioned in the last segment that I wanted to hit on. First off, I don't know, John, if you should ever do beer reviews. The word soupy isn't really
See, I told you. But It is. It's almost like drinking soup. So it's soupy.
That sounds
it's thick.
horrible.
I don't think beer should be thick.
It's all about mouthfeel. It's not really super thick.
Right.
There's never any time where you're like, this is like a nice thick broth.
Yeah,
I mean,
there's
that's
a
not
nice
really...
chunk of carrot or celery in this IPA. Ugh.
Yeah, that would be horrible.
This beer has just grabbed my tongue and is trying to pull it out of my mouth. I don't like this.
Oh, that's not a real thing.
You know what? I'm going to add a bad beer review segment to some of the shows later on where I'm going to send a beer to John, force him to drink it and review it, and we'll feature it on the notes.
We could do that.
I love that. Could we put that in audio? We could add that as a segment to the show.
Yeah,
that would
definitely
be fabulous. My mom, she does not like drinking beer with me now because she always gives me the best bad beer reviews. And so I always will say, Mom, don't drink that quite yet. And I'll pull out my phone and go to my social media and I'll be like, okay, Mom, go. What do you think? And now she censors what she's going to say because she doesn't want me to put all word for word. But I love it. I love everything that she talks about and, the experiences of a new person trying.
This could go to a whole new thing because you just gave me the idea of me when I go to drink the beer, I'll video me drinking the beer. So when I make that face that oh my God, what was that? Where can I spit this?
Oh yeah, we'll screen cap it.
Yeah, we can actually put that in the show notes as a video.
That is awesome. So look at that, folks, right here on our anniversary episode.
We're creating content.
We're creating content, future content for y'all. So if you want to learn about John's faces he makes while drinking beer, make sure that you listen in and watch on the show notes next time around, I guess. But speaking of beers, I'm actually drinking one. I must say it is noon. It is Friday, though, and I am up at camp.
Woo woo.
So, yeah, I'm sitting looking out at a lake, watching the ducks go underwater and the fish jump, and I decided, hey, why not have a beer? I mean, this is a anniversary episode, right?
So I have a question.
Do you want to know what beer I'm drinking?
No,
Or-
not
okay.
yet. That'll
All right.
come. But my question is, how early can you drink a beer? Like, in other words, for you, Amanda, you're like, you look
What
at the
day
clock.
of the week is it?
It's a Friday. Okay, it's a Saturday. All right.
Oh, it's Saturday.
It's a Saturday.
When
you
you
have nowhere
wake up.
to go. You have a beer when you wake up?
I don't always, but you can. You said
You
how
can't-
early
I'm saying,
can you?
I'm saying usually when you get up and you're like, okay, it's time. It's time. It's time to crack open that beer and, basically pour one out. So what time is it when that happens?
Well,
Acceptable time.
An acceptable time, I mean, normally isn't until, like, for me personally, I love seltzer, so I'll drink seltzer all day long. If it's just a typical weekend day, then it's not until dinner time.
Oh, okay.
If we go to a brewery as, like,
Lunchtime.
thing that we're doing, right, lunchtime. If we're doing... Exactly. If we're doing more of like a special breakfast, there are beers that go really well with breakfast. And I've talked about like breakfast beers before. And, so for my husband's 30th birthday, we went camping and we picked all these breakfast beers. I made sausage like from scratch that had different beer in it. And you can make a whole breakfast out of like beer and beer themed foods.
Well, I like a good brat when it's steamed in beer. I steam
go.
my crabs with beer. Always steam my crabs with beer at Old Bay, so it adds flavor to that.
Yeah.
And then I'm a big fan of the beer and cheese soup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's not like I like beer in my food. I'm just not a beer drinker.
So I would like to press pause just for a moment, and I'd like to go back to the crabs. I'm coming back down for MapCon in September, and I'm coming down with Clay Groves from the Fish Nerds, and I think you should host a crab boil.
I could do that. I think
And-
Justin's coming too.
Yeah. We could totally do some kind of show. Clay and I like to talk on each other's shows. I don't actually know if Clay's been on my show yet. I like to talk on his show. But we are planning to talk about how you can put weird podcasting episode themes together. So like he does fish and I do beer. It's not too far of a stretch, but talk about how you can go on each other's shows and kind of remember when this is the one that Clay always uses. He always uses when Superman went on Scooby-Doo, but I remember like the TGIF stars going on other TGIF shows, like Full House going on Family Matters and vice versa. Yeah, see, I didn't get the Scooby-Doo and a Superman one, so we could record a show down there while we were down there and put it on air about beer and crabs and
My
all of
family
that.
are huge fishermen.
Yes.
So I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely. That would be a really good time. So for you listeners, I know that this sounds really crazy and stuff, but sometime this fall, we're going fishing. So that'll be fun.
We're going to need a bigger boat.
Yeah, we're going to need a much bigger boat. So anyways, the beer that I'm drinking today, I did go to 4%. I figured that would be a really good place to start at noon on a Friday. And it's actually right out of South Portland, where I'm from. It's from Foul Mouth Brewing Company. It's a Yuzu Kosho, Kosho, but it has the line over it.
Your guess is as good as mine.
Justin, it feels like it might be up your alley. How would I pronounce that?
Kuzu Kosh, I don't know. I feel like you have to say it with a kind of wizened sensei accent.
Probably. It's a goza. And it's made with some lime. There's some lime in there. And it's a kettle sour goza. It's got yuzu kosho, a fermented Japanese seasoning made with yuzu peel, chili peppers, and salt.
That sounds like it would be so up my alley. I'm about to get on a plane and fly up.
Come on up. I've got one more bottle. And you can sit here. It's wonderful. It's really hot outside right now in a muggy kind of hotness because it's been raining. And this is perfect looking at the lake, talking to you guys.
Now, I remember you did a spot on Foul Mouth Brewery. I do remember that.
Yes. We have talked to them on the show before. They are wonderful, wonderful people. And I'm actually going to be brewing a beer with them for the event that is coming up. The show is actually sponsored by the Beer Geek Retreat, and we have a little spot for you all to listen. But of course, I need to ask you guys some trivia before we can go over to listen to that. So first off, Beer Geek Retreat, it's going to be so much fun. I'm so excited. I am brewing a special beer with, right now, I think there's 7. I don't know if I can fit any more breweries in my lineup, but we'll see. So, gentlemen, this is a little bit of a softball because I know, at least John, you're kind of newish to this whole beer geekery, and I thank you for coming along on this ride with me. So what is the oldest brewery in the United States? Now, don't answer. Wait till Justin is done plugging in our sponsor.
Today's episode is brought to you by the Beer Geek Retreat. It is the Beer Geeks Don't Miss event of the summer, presented by Thomas Point Beach and Campground in Brunswick, Maine. This event is presented by Thomas Point Beach in partnership with us here at Great Beer Adventure. Now, I am sitting in a very loud tasting room, but I mean, yeah, it's what's supposed to be happening, right? Drinking beer, talking about beer, planning beer events. So I am sitting here with Michael, the owner of Thomas Point Beach and Campground. Michael, I would like to know, why is Thomas Point Beach and Campground the perfect spot for this event?
Because we think it's a great spot for this kind of event. For one, because we're biased and we think we're the perfect spot for really any kind of event. But I haven't seen any other venues that really offer, as much. I mean, you've got camping as part of your ticket. You've got the beach. We've got disc golf. Ample event space for lectures and activities. And you won't know this unless you've been there, but we're only like a mile away from town, but you feel like you're removed from everything. I mean, it's a perfect combination without giving up, any of the amenities of having a town close by, but also feeling like you're removed from everything to really enjoy this kind of atmosphere and these kind of people.
We're looking forward to it. If you would like more information on the Beer Geek Retreat, head over to beergeekretreat.com.
All right, so welcome back. Just as a reminder, the question was, what is the oldest brewery in the U.S.? Now, first, Justin, you probably have a little bit more information than John, so we're going to let John see if he has any ideas. What do you think?
My first instinct was Yuengling because I thought that was the oldest, but that might be the oldest Pennsylvania brewery.
What do you think, Justin?
I think John's right.
He is correct. You're right. Do either of you remember what year they started in?
Ooh.
I'm going to say 1664.
No.
Okay.
1829. You're only off by a couple hundred. So 1829 is when they got started. And actually, in order to be the oldest running, they had to survive Prohibition. So Prohibition was around 1919-ish. Yeah, right in there. So in order to be able to keep it up, they started doing near beer products. So they were like 0.5% alcohol, which was legal at the time. And they had a lot of non-alcoholic beers as well, like porters and such. And they also started a dairy company right across the street to help pay the bills while Prohibition was happening.
I did not know that.
So
Yeah.
I have a little bit of a beer story because I used to drink beer back in the day because I'm a lot older than you guys are. So,
No.
Yes. So one of the things when we were allowed to drink in New Jersey at 18, and this was like in 1979. So back then, Yuengling, you could buy a whole case of Yuengling beer for like $7.
Wow.
It was known as one of the cheapest. It was known as a swill beer.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be like, it was, we got enough money for Yuengling, so let's go get a case of Yuengling. So they brought in a marketer, and they said, listen, we want to try to make our brand better. And they said, okay, we're going to change the labels. We're going to triple the price, and we're not going to change a thing. And that's what they did. And now Yuengling beer is probably one of the most known beers around. And it's the same stuff that we were like, okay, well, we can only drink Yuengling, so we'll drink that.
Right.
And it's the same exact beer, which cracks me up.
All about marketing.
It is all about marketing.
Yeah, they are still family owned. They talk about the fact that they are the same original recipe. They did it right the first time, and they're going to continue to do it that way. So I don't expect them to change with the craft beer scene. They like what they're doing, and they're going to keep doing it. So I, in my journey, have been going out and about and talking to different people, and now we have some little clips for some people that actually have listened to the podcast. So, Justin, please put those in. Okay, first, can I have your name?
My name is Kevin Cretion.
And the first question I want to ask you about is actually podcasts. So, you listen to podcasts. How many podcasts do you listen to?
I listen to maybe 3, and you're number 1 on my list.
Thank you. So what is it how did you find the podcast?
I can't remember exactly. I'm assuming it's probably Facebook. Kind of ran into it on Facebook and searched it, found it, and started listening. I want to say 10, 15 episodes in, and I've listened to every single one. I'm all caught up.
Thank you.
The 100th episode was my last one. I just listened to that. I think it was Thursday.
Sorry, I'm just kind of like awestruck right now. I really appreciate it. What has been your favorite thing so far that you've learned or moment on the show?
I'd say learning a little bit of the histories, what the people behind it. You know, you can drink a lot of beer and you can like a lot of beer, but sometimes knowing the stories, the history behind what made somebody decide to give up their real job to become a brewer and start and then go through all that effort to make these great brews that we're trying, and everybody's different. And, you know, in Portland, for instance, there are probably 20, 30 breweries that you can go to, and always something different. You know, it's not the same stuff all the time. You know, that's what I love about it, is being able to hear about it and the different things that are coming up and things to look out for besides social media. It gives you another outlet to be able to hear it, you know.
And if you could choose a theme for me to look into next, what do you want me to go out and research or find an answer to?
You've stumped me here. I'm sorry.
And now, you know that I ask everybody, what is your first beer memory?
I would say drinking from my grandfather's Miller Genuine Draft clear bottle out of a little Dixie cup. He used to put salt in his beer. Frenchman from Biddeford. That would be my first. Take a little, offering us little sips, trying it. I mean, I must have been, probably 7, 8, 9 years old. Little sips, nothing, like here have a cold bottle or anything like that. But that was probably my first, beer memory that I can remember. It's kind of never really got into beer probably till I was into my 30s before I really started to like beer and really try different kinds and experiment with all the different varieties that are out there. Yeah.
Thank you. All right, gents. We've been doing this for a little while now. We've been drinking some beers. Well, I have. You guys seem to be trying to keep it together, although I think you two are the ones that are going off the rails a little bit. We've got men falling downstairs. We've got fake sound effects, all kinds of things that are going crazy. So let's jump quickly into this last segment where we actually get to meet a couple other beer podcasters, at least one of which I know you guys know if you've been listening to the show. So take it away, other beer podcasters.
Hey, this is good old boy Mike from Sips, Suds, and Smokes. We've been on the air for about 5 years, produced a little over 250 episodes, and fairly popular show as well. We've been on iTunes for most of that time. We've been the number one food podcast for about 3 years, and we really cover a broad range of topics, everything good in life worth discussing. And we talk about beer quite a bit as well on about half of our 49 episodes every season. We've had the pleasure of covering a lot of great beer during that time, and I thought that I'd share just a few of the favorite moments from many of these episodes, a couple of beer episodes as well as one of our Sips episodes as well. So up first is a show that we did where we actually got into one of our recurring shticks, which is just making up words randomly, and we talked about them as part of the Sips, Suds, and Smokes lexicon. And this is the first time that the word chuggling actually came into play and is now part of Good Old Gal Juliana's tagline. So here's that clip.
Kind of overwhelm your palate. I would not call this a guzzling or chuggling. Chuggling. That's a real word, right? I don't think so.
It is now.
A chuggling.
It's a sip, suds, and smokes verbiage.
It is definitely a sipping beer for sure. My suds rating for America is going to be 3. Juliana, what did you think of Merca from Prairie?
I dug it. I got a lot of grapiness, off of it, which is, Nelson, they're standing out in
and
front
kind of
of
musty, too, a little bit.
Yeah, but,
I think
there's
that's
a bit...
me. Sorry.
That could be you. You're right.
I'll turn the fan on for you, Dave.
Thank you.
Reverend Mark, please take a bath. Okay.
I didn't notice.
But like a good degree of barnhousey, kind of stuff and
Barnhouse?
Barnhouse, yeah. I know. I made that up right now.
Thank you. I like that.
Thank you.
This is Dave Michigan words.
Juggling and
barnhousey. Thank you very much for playing Game That Freaky Word.
You're going to have to put like a glossary on the website.
And we're casting and waiting.
We have a lot of fun with, frankly, our voices a lot of times, and just, the conversation that's going around the table, in addition to talking about a lot of the great products that we get to review and rate. And this is from our SIPS team, and Harmeet is actually talking with good old boy Brent here, and I really just I couldn't stop laughing over this conversation between the two of them. And the only thing that Harmeet didn't do is he didn't actually break into his native tongue, which is from India, as he turns to Brent and says, "Could I ask you to please enunciate penis?" So here is this quick clip from the show called Please Enunciate Peanuts.
Solid whiskey, I give it a 3.
Interesting.
Brent, what do you think?
I have to agree with a lot of that. I get peanuts with it though. And this is a nice honey color.
Yeah, there is a
enunciate because I didn't I didn't want to hear that.
Peanuts.
Thank you.
Like Charlie Brown.
Yeah. Right. With the nose, I get some vanilla and oak. On the palate, I definitely get peanuts and oak, clove, spice. Peanut.
Yes, please.
Yes. Yeah. A little bit of vanilla. But I agree.
So we have a lot of other themes on our beer shows as well, and we got into doing a few shows that had a bit of a game show theme to them. And we love to come back to these all the time. And this is one of my favorite episodes, again, with Juliana and Dave. And it's actually just the three of us that did this show. And I decided to basically do it in a game show style. Where you had to name your favorite ABBA song in addition to your favorite beer. And all these beers were from Sweden. So if you could think of a better way to combine ABBA music and beer from Sweden, this is what this show is about. And this is one of my favorite moments from that show, which is Dave actually sharing about his favorite beer as well as his favorite ABBA song. So let's check this out.
I hate to admit it, but my favorite ABBA song is probably Dancing Queen.
Ooh, Dancing Queen. Go ahead, sing along, Dave.
You are the dancing queen.
A radio first here, folks.
17.
How awesome. We have made history.
We have destroyed the human race. We've made the universe a little dumber. Just now.
All right, Dave. So let's talk about your top 3 picks from On the Polo now. Well, there you have it. Just a few great clips from Sips, Suds, and Smokes. I think one of our favorite things we'd love to do is, frankly, just talk about really great products and belch into the microphone. Not always in that order, but we have a great time always on the radio and with each other talking about great products as well. Hey, be sure and check out the show. We're on weekly. Like I said, we're on every podcast outlet you could possibly find. iTunes and Google Play are probably the 2 most popular places. Our native host is Spreaker. You can catch us on a number of public radio stations as well. You might want to look at one around you and see if we're on probably about 2 a.m. is our favorite time slot. So feel free to drop us a line anytime if you'd like to. Our email address is info@sipsudsandsmokes.com. And this is good old boy Mike asking you to definitely come back, join us sometime, and keep on sipping.
Good afternoon. My name is Steve Schmidt, and I am the host of the Market the Brew podcast, which can be found at marketthebrew.com. Market the Brew podcast is a podcast on what you might guess. It's about marketing craft beer. And my good friend Amanda Dowdy from the Great Beer Adventure asked me to talk a little bit about the podcast and why I started it. It really is a combination of two things I love and have a passion for. One is marketing, and the other is craft beer. I've been in the promotions and marketing business for almost 40 years, and in the past I've done business for Miller and Miller Coors. And I grew up in Milwaukee, so I've always had an affinity for beer, know a lot about beer, and know some about beer marketing. And when the whole craft beer, I don't want to call it a trend, when the whole craft beer trend started, and I tasted the beers and became really fascinated by and fell in love with the different styles and explorations on the different styles and just the craftsmanship that comes in craft beer, I really got hooked. And one of the things I find fascinating and where I feel I can contribute is there's, at this recording, over 5,200 craft breweries in the U.S., and most of them are that smaller microbrewery level. And I'm hoping through my podcast I can find ideas and promotions and marketing strategies and tactics that breweries are doing on a local basis, and I can help them tell that story in an audio format and then put it on the website and through the podcast be able to share that information with other breweries around the U.S., because my idea is that a brewery that's using an idea in Milwaukee, Wisconsin successfully with a few tweaks, somebody in Raleigh, North Carolina or Tempe, Arizona could use that same idea just as successfully. Just want to take a brief moment to congratulate my friend Amanda on her 2-year anniversary. It's a podcast that I listen to every episode and I really love it. Congratulations, Amanda, and thanks for inviting me to do this.
Microbrewer is a blog and podcast that's all about how to start a brewery. Whether you want to start a brewery or take your existing brewery to the next level, Microbrewer is the place for you. I'm Nathan Pierce, the host of Microbrewer Podcast. I'm trying to figure out how to start a brewery. So I interview brewers, brewery owners, and other industry experts all about how to start a brewery. Just asking their best ideas, their biggest mistakes, learning everything and anything we need to know about how to start a brewery. A few years ago, I was working a full-time job, doing work where I was helping the world for good pay, with good benefits, when I had a crazy idea. I wanted to start a brewery. I really cared about the work I was doing, but still, it wasn't my own. I've always had a yearning to make something. I want to help others and inspire others, but also I want to create something new in this world. A friend and I had already been talking about starting some sort of business together, and it was probably going to be in the alcoholic beverage industry. So we settled on craft beer. And I quit my job. Yeah, woohoo, this is going to happen. And then pretty soon into the planning phases and trying to find money, I was coming more and more to grips with reality. I had no qualifications nor experience. But then I came across Microbrewer Podcast. And of course, nowadays, you can't even count the number of beer podcasts on iTunes. But back then, there was only a few and none about the business of beer. Heck, now there's even many podcasts just on the business of beer, not even getting into the beer itself. But Microbrewer was the only one back then. I was listening right along. I was writing the business plan. It was helpful, but mostly it was inspirational. I was checking iTunes every week, wanting more episodes. And then in episode 12, the host said he was going to stop making it. I was shocked. I was driving in my car when I heard him say that. I immediately paused the episode that I was listening to, and I called him up on the phone. I know he made the right decision for himself. I support him in that. He had a full-time job, plus he and his wife were expecting their first child, and they had to prioritize, of course. It makes total sense. Yet I couldn't keep from being disappointed at losing this great resource for myself. I was really excited about the Microbrewer podcast since I first listened to it. The information was timely for me, but it was also just fun to listen to. It was like sitting down for pints with brewers and brewery owners, listening to them talk about their product and their business. I mean, how awesome is that? But I also thought about the community that was building around Microbrewer. One of the things that I really like about craft beer is the sense of community among its consumers. And Microbrewer had already created a venue to facilitate that. I didn't want them to lose this great resource either. So I took on the project, and it's been a lot of fun. After more than 90 episodes, there's a real knowledge bank about getting started in the craft beer industry. I've talked with people in almost every part of the industry: brewers, brewery owners, distributors, retailers, even a banker, event promoters, web designers, an accountant. There's a lot going into starting a brewery besides making beer, so I got to know it all. So we talk about everything craft beer related, but with a focus for people looking at starting their own microbrewery or wanting to take their existing brewery to the next level. If you dream of starting a brewery, or if you just want to know the stories behind your favorite local brewery, I hope you'll find some helpful information at Microbrewer Podcast.
All right, so we're bringing up you all to the end of this highly meta episode, and I do have a couple questions for you guys. Gentlemen, just some nuts and bolts type of questions. So I send you all of this audio. How long does it actually take you to put it together into a decent sounding show for all of our listeners?
Ooh, that's a good question, and it really varies depending on the kind of show. So back when the format was different, the episode length would vary from the audio you would send in raw from like, I don't know, anywhere from like 15 minutes to an hour or sometimes more. So it really kind of depends on the length and then the complexity of putting things together. So a good rule of thumb is that it's going to take about twice as long minimum to kind of edit any kind of audio. So you can kind of just double its length to get an idea of just what it's going to take to edit it. I will say that with the change in format, it's a lot more complex to put it together. It took a solid chunk of time.
So we have not found our groove yet in this new format.
No, and some of it is like you kind of get used to it. Like I have really complicated shows that I put together all the time, and I kind of have it down a bit more. So there is definitely like a kind of feeling out to it for sure.
I think it's all about organization. When you're doing something like this, you have to organize the audio clips into a number spot so that you can grab them, drag them, pull them around. But the problem is you have to listen to everything. So that's where the time comes in, listening and then figuring out what you're going to pull and then, pulling it and labeling it and then being able to, assemble everything. That's the same with any kind of podcast. But usually, Justice says too, sometimes I think the shorter shows are harder because you've got to make them flow and you have to make them sound like they flow. And then sometimes the people that you're interviewing aren't really, they're not used to broadcasting or something like that. So it's kind of hard to make them sound better.
Right. Oh, and for me, I'm writing the notes too. So a lot of times I kind of do them at the same time, which kind of takes up more time. I've kind of gotten better at that as time's gone on, of like just jotting down a sentence as I go along, and then just kind of, it's easier with your podcast, honestly, because I kind of go off on tangents and stuff. But so doing the notes for your show is a little bit less time consuming than others, where I'm like having to write down really hyper specific details and stuff like that.
Unless you're trying to hunt down a lizard.
Oh, yeah. You give me some really crazy things to try to discover online from time to time. And I can't remember. Yeah, there is one episode where I couldn't find out either of the things that you're talking about.
Yeah, you failed that time.
I got a big F.
It's okay. We'll give you more tasks as the time goes on. Yay. So you have mentioned a couple times that you should have a beer during the editing process. What is your go-to editing beer?
Ooh, well, okay, there's like my dream editing beer, and then there's my go-to editing beer. I would say my go-to editing beer is probably a session beer that I pick up a lot. I'm blanking on its name right now.
You can put it in the show notes.
Yeah, I'll have to look that one up. My dream editing beer is Westbrook's Key Lime Pie Goza that they put out every now and then.
Yeah, if you get some of that, you best be sending some to me.
Yeah, it's I really like that one. So that's kind of like my dream editing beer.
All right, as we are tying this up, do either of you have anything that you would like to add, comment, or question?
Yeah, one of the things that when you approached me about doing the show, I was like, okay, a beer podcast. Well, okay, well, I don't know what it's going to be about, but one of the things that I love that you do is you bring everybody in and it feels like we're sitting at the table with you and we're having a beer. And me, being the beer sissy that I am, for you to make me want to drink a beer every time I listen to your show is basically saying that you do a fantastic job with the way you interview and the way you tell a story. And I do miss the reason that I don't edit the audio anymore is because Justin has to write the notes, so it's almost like doing double duty. So I just let him do the show, but I do miss doing the show, and I still listen to the show. So a non-beer drinker who listens to a beer podcast, that has to say something about what you're doing.
I am helping the beer industry. Hopefully, though, it's like at the end of a workday, not in the middle of a workday. My show's definitely not one that you should be listening to on your commute to work.
No, on the way home.
Exactly. So, gentlemen, thank you very much. I love having you part of this team. It's been so much fun, and thank you both for stopping by, not having a beer with me, and talking into microphones.
Well, we'll have to have a beer when you get to MapCon.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We will do that. We'll find our best beers for John to try while we're there. We will.
Oh, boy.
It'll be super fun. So next week, please join us as we start to look at the actual startup process of a brewery. So how does it get started? And we're gonna trudge through some of the heavy stuff that people have to look at. So join us for that. But yeah, gentlemen, cheers to you. And until we see each other again, get out there and try something new. Chat soon, friends.